When I moved to the city, I didn't have a lot of money. So, I looked for a cheap place and found a small apartment with one girl named Sarah. She was already living there and needed a roommate. The rent was low, the place was clean, and Sarah seemed nice. She had long black hair and spoke very softly. She didn't smile much, but she wasn't mean either. She just liked to stay in her room most of the time, reading or writing. Her room had a big old mirror hanging on the wall. I saw it when I first moved in. The glass looked cloudy, like it hadn't been cleaned in years. "You can use anything in the apartment," Sarah told me. "Just don't go near the mirror in my room." I thought it was a weird thing to say, but I agreed. After all, it was her space. Things were fine at first. We didn't talk much, but we got along. I stayed in my room, did my homework, watched TV, and minded my business. But after a week, I started to notice strange things. One night, I heard whispering. At first, I thought it was Sarah talking on the phone, but when I listened closer, it didn't sound like talking. It was soft and quick, like someone saying the same word again and again. I got up and walked to Sarah's door. The light was off, but I could see her sitting in front of the mirror. The whispers were coming from her room. But she wasn't speaking. Her mouth wasn't moving. I stepped back quietly and went back to bed. The next day, I asked, "Were you talking last night?" "No," she said. "Why?" "Just heard some sounds, maybe from outside," I lied. That night, I had a bad dream. I was standing in front of the mirror in Sarah's room. But it wasn't me in the reflection. It was someone else. A girl with the same face, but her eyes were black, and her smile was too wide. She said, "Help me." I woke up sweating. When I saw Sarah that morning, she looked tired. Her eyes were red. She looked at me and asked, "Did you go in my room?" "No," I said quickly. "Of course not." She stared at me for a moment, then nodded slowly. I wanted to leave the apartment, but I didn't have money to go anywhere else. I told myself it was just a dream. Maybe I was just stressed from school. But the strange things didn't stop. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. A hand reaching out from a door. A face in the hallway mirror that didn't match mine. But when I looked again, nothing was there. Sarah got worse. She didn't eat much. She barely spoke. Sometimes, I saw her standing in front of her mirror for hours, just staring. One night, I finally asked, "Is something wrong?" She looked at me with sad eyes and said, "She wants out." "Who?" I asked. Sarah didn't answer. She just went into her room and closed the door. The next night, I came home from class and saw that her door was open. That had never happened before. I called her name, but she didn't answer. I slowly walked inside. The mirror was glowing faintly, like it had light inside it. Sarah was sitting in front of it, but her eyes were closed. I stepped closer and saw something terrifying. Her reflection was awake. It looked straight at me, even though Sarah's eyes were shut. The reflection smiled. I stumbled back, heart racing. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my phone and called my mom. I told her I wanted to come home. She could hear how scared I was and said she'd send money for a bus ticket the next day. That night, I locked my door and didn't sleep. I kept hearing knocks on my wall. Not like someone trying to get my attention. More like someone trying to come through. At 3 a.m., I heard my door creak open. I sat up, shaking. I had locked it. I was sure. Sarah stood there. But something was wrong. Her skin looked too pale. Her mouth hung open like she was about to scream, but no sound came out. "Help me," she said slowly. Behind her, I saw the mirror glowing again. And in it, I saw her reflection. Only now, the reflection wasn't her. It was the girl from my dream. The one with black eyes and the long, wide smile. I slammed the door and held it shut. I heard footsteps going back to her room. Then silence. In the morning, I packed my things. I didn't even shower. I left a message for Sarah, saying I was leaving. I didn't care if I lost the rent. I just wanted out. As I opened the front door, I felt a strong urge to look back. I didn't want to, but I did. Sarah was standing in the hallway. "Leaving?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She didn't blink. Then she said, "Tell the next roommate not to touch the mirror." I nodded and ran. A few weeks later, I got a call from the landlord. He asked if I had seen Sarah. I told him no. He said she hadn't paid rent and wasn't answering. I didn't say anything about what happened. I just said I moved out early. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. Or that mirror. One night, I searched her full name online. I found an old article. A news story from 3 years ago. A girl named Sarah, same face, had died in a car accident. But the date was wrong. It was a full year before I moved in. Then who did I live with? I turned off my laptop and stared into the mirror in my own room. And for just a second, I swear, I saw her behind me. When I moved to the city for school, I found a cheap room to rent in a big old house. The man who owned it was quiet and friendly. He said he had one rule: follow my roommate's rules, and everything will be fine. I didn't meet my roommate at first. Her name was Lisa, and she worked nights. She left a note on the fridge the day I moved in. "Hi, I'm Lisa. I sleep during the day. Please follow these rules. 1. Don't knock on my door. 2. Don't play music or talk loud during the day. 3. Never open my door. Thanks." That felt strange, but I didn't mind. She paid rent, I paid rent, and the house was clean. It was only for a few months. The first day, I stayed quiet. I heard soft footsteps upstairs and the door creak open at sunset. I peeked through the curtain and saw a woman with long black hair walking down the street. She looked normal, just quiet. The second day, I played a video on my phone. I forgot to use earphones. A second later, I heard 3 loud knocks on the wall from her room. I quickly turned the sound off. I felt bad. I didn't want to make her mad. That night, I saw her come back. Her face was pale, and she moved slowly. I waved, but she didn't wave back. The third night, I woke up thirsty. I went to the kitchen for water. As I passed the hallway, I saw her door open just a little. I stopped. I didn't want to look, but I felt like something was watching me. I rushed back to my room and closed the door tight. The next morning, I asked the landlord, "Hey, is Lisa okay? She seems kind of off." He looked at me for a second, then said, "She keeps to herself. Just respect her space." I nodded, but something didn't feel right. One night, I came home late from class. I was very tired. As I walked into the hallway, I saw her door wide open. That had never happened before. I paused. The lights were off in her room, but I thought I saw something move inside. "Lisa," I called. No answer. I stepped a little closer. My heart was beating fast. Why was her door open? I saw a shadow move again. "Lisa, are you okay?" Still no answer. I was about to turn away when I heard a whisper. "Come in." It was soft, like wind, but it came from the room. I took one step forward. Suddenly, the door slammed shut in my face. Bang! I jumped and fell backward. My heart pounded. I got up and ran to my room. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told the landlord what happened. He looked pale. "You opened her door?" he asked. "No, I didn't. It was already open." He looked down and whispered, "She died in that room. A year ago. Her spirit is still here. She doesn't like noise. Doesn't like people breaking her rules." I stared at him. "What? Are you serious?" He nodded slowly. "She was quiet in life. She's quiet in death. Don't break her rules again." I moved out the next day. I still dream about that room, and the whisper behind the door. When I first moved into the apartment, I was just happy to finally live on my own. I had just started college, and the idea of having a roommate sounded fun. My roommate's name was Jay. He was quiet and clean, and that was all I wanted. At first, everything seemed normal. We split chores. We watched TV sometimes. But Jay never talked much. He also had this weird habit. He always kept his closet door locked. I asked him about it once, joking, "What do you keep in there?" "A monster." He smiled a little and said, "Just stuff." That answer stuck with me. Just stuff? Why lock it? I stopped thinking about it until one night I woke up to a strange sound. It was like scratching, soft, slow, and coming from Jay's room. I checked the time. It was 2:14 a.m. I told myself it was probably a rat or something. But the sound kept happening night after night. One evening, Jay wasn't home. He had left a note saying he was visiting his cousin for the weekend. I was alone in the apartment. That night, the scratching sound came again. But this time, it was louder. And I was sure it came from inside the locked closet. I tiptoed to his room. I pressed my ear to the door. Scratch, scratch, thud. It didn't sound like a rat. It sounded a human. I backed away, heart pounding. I told myself I'd talk to Jay when he returned. But he didn't come back that weekend. Or the next day. Worried, I tried calling him. No answer. I texted. Nothing. Then, things got worse. On Monday night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard footsteps in Jay's room. I froze. He wasn't back. His bag and shoes weren't there. I peeked around the corner. His door was half open now. I knew I didn't leave it that way. I turned off the lights and waited in my room, door locked. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I made a decision. I would call the landlord and ask him to open Jay's closet. If Jay was hiding something bad, I needed to know. But the landlord said he couldn't help without permission from Jay. "He's on the lease. That's his private space," he said. That night, I had enough. I took a butter knife and tried to open the closet myself. I knew it wasn't right, but I was scared. The lock clicked open after a few tries. What I saw inside still gives me nightmares. It wasn't a regular closet. It had shelves with strange things, animal bones, dried flowers, and small glass jars filled with dark liquid. In the corner was a tiny wooden box with carvings on it. It was open. Inside was a photo of me, sleeping in my bed. I dropped the photo. My legs felt weak. That's when I saw the notebook beside it. It had pages filled with messy handwriting. One page said, "Roommate dreams of running but doesn't know. Closet watches." That's when I heard the door slam. Jay was back. I ran to the front door, but he blocked it. "You opened it," he said, voice low and angry. "What is all that stuff?" I asked, shaking. "You weren't supposed to see it," he said. "Now you're part of it." He lunged at me, but I dodged and grabbed my phone. I ran to the balcony and screamed for help. Lights turned on in other apartments. People opened windows. Jay froze. Someone called the police. Jay stood still until they came. He didn't fight. He just kept whispering. The closet saw. It saw everything. They took him away. Later, the police told me Jay had been reported missing by his family 2 years ago. They showed me a photo. It was him, but older. He looked dead. Pale skin. Sunken eyes. They said, "That man isn't Jay." I moved out the next day. Now, I double-check every closet. And I never live with strangers again.